is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Rhett Matthew with the Cannon Fire podcast. I am joined by my co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. We've also got our good buddy, Mr. Bucks Nation, a.k.a. James Hill, joining us today for some breaking Tampa Bay Buccaneer news. The Buccaneers have signed a veteran running back in LeVeon Bell. Now, obviously, LeVeon Bell is a name a lot of people are going to recognize. And while he's not the back he was 5 years ago during that free agency frenzy he had, the contract dispute in Pittsburgh and everything that came after that, I still think what he can offer is, a serviceable third down back role for the Bucs throughout the rest of the regular season. Leonard Fournette left the game against New Orleans with an injury, and it seems pretty likely now that the Bucs are going to put him on IR, which will, of course, end the regular season for him. But it seems like they have a good enough feeling he should be good to go for the playoffs. But, as far as the running back position and adding a running back like Le'Veon Bell, we know Ronald Jones is going to get his fair share of carries throughout the rest of the regular season. I think this could almost be an audition for his second contract. While it might not be in Tampa Bay, I think it's a good chance for Rojo to put some good film together for whatever team wants to sign him next season. But, looking back, I think another reason the Bucs added a guy like Le'Veon Bell is not only to complement Rojo, but to kind of fill in where Keyshawn Vaughn couldn't, because we saw Keyshawn Vaughn come into the game a little bit against New Orleans, and safe to say he didn't fare too well. So, Evan, what are your thoughts on this signing?
Yeah, to me, this speaks more to Keyshawn Vaughn rather than Ronald Jones, Le'Veon Bell, Leonard Fournette, any of them. It's just, I'm sure the Bucs would have loved to have Keyshawn Vaughn step in and actually be useful, but he's just not. Like he obviously the 3rd and 1 thing, that's not all his fault, getting stuff there. Like, that's not all his fault, but that easy catch that he should have had, you got to catch that ball. And I think that's what Le'Veon Bell's here to do. He's a veteran who's been there, done that. He's played in a lot of big games. Ronald Jones is still the starter. It's not like Le'Veon Bell is all of a sudden going to be this workhorse and he's going to get 20 carries a game. Ronald Jones is still the guy. It's just Le'Veon Bell is going to be the guy on 3rd downs. And I see a lot of people that really are hating on this signing, and I don't know how you can hate it or really love it. Look, it's for 3 games, essentially. It's for 3 games at the end of the regular season. Leonard Fournette, while it's likely he's going to be placed on IR, Adam Schefter also reported that the expectation is he's going to be back for the playoffs. So it doesn't sound like he's going to miss any playoff time. So sure, does maybe Le'Veon Bell stick on the roster through the playoffs? Maybe, who knows? But it's really harmless, I think. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, who cares? Like I said, it's for the last 3 games. It's for the minimum, most likely. And he's not going to be your every down starter. So I really don't see the downside. So I don't see why you would, have to hate on the signing, but I definitely think it speaks more to Keyshawn Vaughn. And it signals to me that in the offseason, no matter what happens with Ronald Jones, like you said, or Leonard Fournette, who's a, unrestricted free agent, Giovanni Bernard, who I believe now has 2 games left he has to miss. Last week was the first of 3 that he had of 3 that has to miss. So he'll miss this week and next week as well, which is another reason I think they signed Le'Veon Bell. With those guys, I'm sure the Bucs would love to have Keyshawn Vaughn come in and be a guy in their committee, but it just doesn't seem like he's going to be able to. Hasn't proved it enough. So for now, Le'Veon Bell steps into the role, and we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, this type of signing reminds me a lot of like a little bit of like a LaShawn McCoy type signing, right? Where Le'Veon Bell is going to be there as kind of purely kind of an insurance policy type thing, right? You got Giovanni Bernard on the IR. You're expecting Leonard Fournette to be placed on the IR as well. Bell is going to give you just a few of those things that Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn are able to do, mainly pass blocking and being able to receive out of the backfield, because we've seen, both Jones and Vaughn not be able to do that, unfortunately. So, I imagine, Bruce Arians probably made a call to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bell was not there when Bruce Arians was there. By the way, there was about a 2-year difference between Arians leaving and Bell getting there, 2011 and 2013. But I imagine, Bruce Arians, with all of his connections he has to the Pittsburgh Steelers, probably called up some of the people with that organization. Maybe they gave an endorsement to Le'Veon Bell. Who knows? I'm not going to speculate too much on that, but that could be, a thread there that led to this signing happening, right? So what you're going to get is, again, purely a backup guy right now who, like what we've talked about, isn't going to get, a lion's share of snaps. That's going to be Ronald Jones. He's proven that he can be a very incredible runner for this team, was almost a 1,000-yard rusher last year. And that's going to be the guy who they look to as the pure runner in the absence of Leonard Fournette. Now, as a receiving back, again, you're probably going to turn to Bell there in those certain types of situations whenever they need a receiving guy to be out there, when they need a guy to pass block out there. I would expect Bell to be the first guy that they bring in.
Who would have ever thought that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell would be teammates again, but in Tampa Bay, not in Pittsburgh? Crazy times.
Yeah, man, what a world we're living in. I mean, it's just another one of those names that, while he isn't playing at his prime level here in Tampa Bay, it's one of those names that you can add to the list of players I certainly never thought would be in a red and pewter uniform, but LaShawn McCoy, Ndamukong Suh, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. I'm sure there are plenty of guys I'm missing. Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski,
Richard Sherman.
Right.
But the list goes on and on.
The all Madden team continues, basically. But pretty interesting news for Tampa Bay, and excited to see what his role can be in this offense throughout the final weeks of the regular season. Some other Bucs news I wanted to cover really quickly before we wrap things up. Chris Godwin at the wide receiver position. He left the New Orleans game early with an injury as well. He took a nasty hit from P.J. Williams in the middle of the field, got flipped up and over on his neck, and honestly, when I heard that he was injured, I thought it was a neck injury at first, but the initial reports were that it was a slightly strained MCL, so that was pretty good news at first. It seemed like he was going to miss some time, but, should be good for the playoffs. And then Bruce Arians confirmed everybody's worst fear later on the next day. It is a torn ACL for the Buccaneers wide receiver. His season is over, including the playoffs. Just a major loss for this Tampa Bay offense going forward.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised that it was originally an MCL. I texted you, Rhett, right when it happened. I said, Godwin's done. It didn't look good. I was shocked that he was on the sideline literally running, trying to figure out if he could go back in the game or not. Speaks to his toughness that he was able to get up on his own and walk off on his own. Really speaks to the toughness of that guy. And it's a humongous loss. We'll talk about it more on the shows we have upcoming. We'll have plenty of time to talk about it. But yeah, it's a huge loss. And obviously now he's an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. So that sort of complicates things as far as negotiations go, because now not only do you have to evaluate him, but you have to evaluate that injury. How is he going to bounce back? It's not just a normal injury. It's a major one, right? Is he even going to be ready for the start of the season? Typically, an ACL would be about 9 months or so, and we're in December now. So it's possible that he misses the first 2-3 weeks of next season, even if he can't recover in time. So it'll be interesting to see. And like I said, we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but really just sucks for not just the Bucs, the football team, but for Chris Godwin, the person, a great human, and, tough break for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It is unfortunate. Like you guys said, we'll probably talk about that at a later date, the implications of that, what that means for contract signings and stuff like that. But in the immediate sense, it's a huge loss for the offense, right? In Chris Godwin's absence, you're going to look for guys like Brashad Perriman to step up, like Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Jalen Darden. Those last three names, they haven't done the most with their opportunities. So that's going to be a little bit more interesting to see them now get even more work. But I would definitely expect, of course, Mike Evans to get more targets. Brashad Perriman is going to get a lot of work now as well. And then I would honestly say probably Tyler Johnson would be one of those guys who would step in. But also Antonio Brown, he returned to the team, from his suspension. Good Lord, that man's probably going to get a lot of targets, maybe not at first, but you can imagine that towards the end of the regular season here, going into the playoffs, it's going to be Evans, Brown, Perriman as kind of that top three. Still really good top three, but again, this loss to Godwin does absolutely stink.
Yeah, and Bruce Arians had actually mentioned some of the receivers on your list. Some of the younger guys, I think Jalen Darden, Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, really most of who we saw line up on offense after the injuries in that game against New Orleans. BA was not all too pleased with those guys. He was pretty let down by the separation they were able to get. meaning that there was none. So, yeah, just like you said, James, what a time for this offense to get a player like Antonio Brown back. And while his reps, I don't think are going to be picking up exactly where he left off, 3 games to get ready for the postseason, I think is more than enough, especially for a guy who was playing as well as he did before he did leave for 10 weeks, because that's also important to remember is that AB has not played football in 10 full weeks, but this is a guy who is still productive. And when you got Mike Evans, who right now his injury looks minor, he left the game with a hamstring injury against New Orleans as well. It looks like it is week to week for right now. So he does have a chance to play Sunday against the Panthers, but we will have to wait and see. But I know Antonio Brown is more than capable. So hopefully this Sunday, even though it's a division game, he can get nice and warmed up and get back in shape for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like you said, it's all about the playoffs at this point. It's looking at the long-term picture. So 3 games left, and we'll see, we'll see how it progresses. We'll see if Mike Evans is able to go. We'll see, hopefully Leonard Fournette's able to come back right away for the playoffs. We don't have any really update on Levante David. There's a few reports out there, but nothing confirmed. So we'll keep an eye on that. And like I said, I mean, we got a few shows lined up for this week. So we'll keep you guys all updated, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about it all.
Yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already for more great Buccaneers content. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And of course, Buccaneers news as it happens. We got some more shows lined up for you guys later on this week. Thanks for checking out this video as we bring you the latest Tampa Bay Buccaneers news. We'll talk to you guys next time. Until then, and as always, go Bucs.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. 2nd down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski.